I mean, now we got to do it because I didn't say nothing bad about Dak the whole show till now, right? Now I got to hate. Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl with the Cincinnati Bengals.
And lost.
Josh Allen has played in the AFC Championship game. Lamar Jackson is a unanimous MVP.
Not when it mattered most.
2 years ago, and what's his playoff record?
Unanimous MVP in this league. Okay, so maybe they're on the same page. They're on the same page. I got a unanimous MVP. Go on ahead and sit down. Because what Dak Prescott and the Cowboys haven't done is sniffed an NFC Championship game in almost 30 years.
Damn, Joy, that's my bad. I've been on your head, and I didn't even realize that you're right, bruh. Dak Prescott has been playing for 30 years for the Cowboys, and he has not been able to get the job done. 30 years is way too long for any player to try and get the job done. So you're right, Joy. You're right. My bad. I forgot Dak was playing for those 30 years, and the whole history of the franchise is because of him. My bad. I forgot, Joy. My bad.
So when you talk about the criticism, you are what you are until you're not. You're not a champion until you're a champion. You're not a pro until you're a pro.
You're not a champion until you're a champion? None of the dudes you just named outside of Patrick Mahomes are champions. Oh, boy. Joy Taylor, you are setting our sisters back years and years and years with the way you have decided to go about covering sports, young lady. Because you see, when Emmanuel Acho approached her with reasonable facts, which are that the fact that most of the people that she's been naming and most of the quarterbacks that she praises and most of the quarterbacks that seem to be quote unquote immune to the criticism that she heaps on Dak Prescott have not accomplished anything. In fact, she then went on to name different quarterbacks: Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. None of these dudes have actually accomplished anything. None of these dudes have a Super Bowl ring. I don't think any of these guys would tell you that going to or winning a NFC or AFC championship game is enough for them to escape criticism, especially when Jalen Hurts got to the NFC championship or won the NFC championship, for one, because the 49ers were playing with like their third string quarterback. For two, he only threw like 125 yards in that game and actually had a terrible game. Jalen Hurts is a more souped up version of Brock Purdy. He's a system quarterback that's in the perfect system with monsters all around him. And this can be very easily proven because right before he got all those monsters around him, he looked like a very pedestrian quarterback, and people in Philadelphia were trying to look to replace this man. So stop it, filthy fans. Don't care. I don't engage with filth. We have people on national TV trying to tell us as fans that he deserves some sort of pass. For what? Actually, let's dive deeper into the numbers. First things first, follow your boy at Dak Attack on X. Now, let's go ahead and start looking through some of these quarterbacks that she named. Even Jalen Hurts making it to the Super Bowl last year, he actually has the lowest statistical value in the playoffs out of any of these other quarterbacks we're going to take a look at. And we're looking at Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, not as a running back who likes 3 thumbs up his ass. So if you take a look here, in 2021, he was actually putrid. 23 of 43, 258 yards on 53% passing, threw for 1 touchdown. Oh, but threw 2 interceptions in his lone playoff stand in 2021 and posted a quarterback rating of 60.0. Woo! PU! That sounds so amazing. That definitely should exempt Jalen Hurts from criticism. Oh, but he made it to the Super Bowl. Okay, let's take a look at that Super Bowl season. 2022, 3 games played, 58 of 87 passing, 66.7%. Sounds pretty good. 579 yards. That sounds kind of low for 3 games. Oh, that's because he didn't even average 200 yards passing per game in that playoff run. Very, very interesting. Now, one thing he did manage to do was he didn't turn the ball over by way of interceptions. Oh, but he actually fumbled the ball, which led directly to points on a scoop and score for Kansas City that actually, honestly, was really the deciding factor in Kansas City being able to come back and win that game. So yeah, even with a Super Bowl game in which he threw for a respectable amount of yards, which I believe it was like 300 or something like that, which makes that 279 that's remaining there look even worse, because that means he really threw for like 125 and 150 in 2 other games. He still only posted a 96.9 quarterback rating throughout that whole playoff run. All this hype and praise we're heaping on Jalen Hurts, and this dude is an 84.7 quarterback rating quarterback in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts hasn't proven or done a damn thing until the Eagles actually win the Super Bowl. No, he's not immune to criticism. No, he doesn't have this godly playoff resume that everyone needs to bow down to. Hell, we seen Joe Flacco have one of these types of runs. We've seen Mark Sanchez almost get the New York Jets to the Super Bowl. We've seen Rex Grossman from the Bears back in the 2000s get them to the Super Bowl. And by no means was Rex Grossman this top tier quarterback. So this whole deal about, oh, the QBs that get there are the elite ones, that's completely false. You can literally look back at a list of all the past Super Bowl teams, and I'm willing to bet it would surprise you how many of those teams actually had quote-unquote elite quarterbacks. And actually, you don't have to do the work. I did it for you. If you take a look at the quarterbacks who have made the Super Bowl, a lot of these guys, unless they're reoccurring, like a Tom Brady, a Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, certain players are reoccurring a lot. A lot of these dudes were one and dones or quarterbacks that were not considered top 3, top 5 type quarterbacks in the league at that time. So this whole idea that playoff success and playoff success alone determines who's really an elite quarterback is actually 100% false. Again, football is the ultimate team sport. Wins are not a quarterback stat. Wins in the playoff comes when your team is clicking on all cylinders and you win in at least 2 out of 3 phases in that ball game. Whether you're winning offense and special teams, or you're winning offense and defense, or you're winning on defense and special teams, there's multiple things that have to come together for a team to be successful in the playoffs and actually make a playoff run. That's the whole idea of complementary football. You see, the Eagles were just the latest example of how to play complementary football because they had an outstanding defense that buoyed their offense. It's as simple as that. All right, let's get off of Jalen Hurts because I know the filthy fans right now are probably raging. Let's take a look at good old Joey B. Joe Burrow. Another guy that just has this permanent pass. And I don't want to go too much on the players here because really the focus of this is Joy Taylor and her terrible takes and her lack of football knowledge and her lack of research and her lack of preparation and how terrible she is as a professional at her actual job. How she just needs to be quiet and keep her opinions to herself and just make sure that her boobas are just sitting up nice and pretty so she can really fulfill the reason that she's on that show, which is to be a piece of eye candy. But I digress. If we take a look at Joe Burrow in Cincinnati 2021, the year he actually made it to the Super Bowl, you'd be quite surprised to know that his stats weren't just like popping off the paper. It wasn't like he was just completely burning the world up. He only threw for 5 total touchdowns in an entire Super Bowl run, and he played 4 games. That means he threw like 1.2 touchdowns per game if you would break that down in an average stat, which means Joe Burrow wasn't lighting the world on fire during that Super Bowl run, and he ended that run with a 97.3 quarterback rating, and then backdoored it in 2022 by throwing 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and ended it with an 89.3 quarterback rating, leaving him to have a 93.8 quarterback rating in the playoffs overall for his career so far. By no means do I think that that should exalt him from any sort of criticism just because he made it to the Super Bowl and lost. He lost, just like Jalen Hurts. You don't get passes for losing. Oh, then we take a look at Lamar Jackson, the unanimous MVP. And again, I don't want to make this about the players because the players are not the ones forcing this argument on us. But we have to understand what these players have actually done during the playoffs to really put in perspective what Dak Prescott is as a playoff performer. Lamar Jackson playoff stats, his overall rating, he has never finished in the playoffs, and this dude has played 4 games in the playoffs and has never finished the playoffs with higher than an 80.0 quarterback rating. That is not good by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, he has 3 touchdowns to 5 interceptions in the playoffs so far. And I would argue if anybody was to be getting criticized about their lack of playoff success or lack of performance in the playoffs, it should be the former unanimous MVP, which he's like 2 or 3 years removed off of, by the way, Joy. So if we're still living off of stuff that people accomplished 2 or 3 years ago, just so you can prove a point that's going on in current day, that's crazy. But his overall quarterback rating in the playoffs is 68.3. Ouch! That is literally putrid. That's putrid. But we're on Dak Prescott, and it's impossible for Dak to be placed on the same level as these other quarterbacks, right? Because they're just so amazing when it counts. False. Then we look at Josh Allen, who actually, out of all these guys, has the best playoff stats because of one amazing run in 2021, which is the run that he's still currently living off of. He did post damn near a perfect quarterback rating in that playoff run, and they still didn't manage to actually win the Super Bowl or go anywhere, go past the AFC Championship. Matter of fact, they didn't even win their conference. But we're still giving credit for people performing in clutch situations where, like I just showed you, 149.0 is crazy. That's about as good as you can play in a playoff run for a quarterback. Kudos where it's due. But that was 2021. The year after that, he backdoored with his worst playoff run since his rookie season, with an overall rating of 80.0, 3 touchdowns thrown, and 3 interceptions thrown as well. So with all things given, yes, Josh Allen has had one good playoff run in which he played a total of 2 games. That really is bolstering his overall quarterback rating for his career. But if you look at the rest of these seasons, 2019, 69.5, not very good. 2020, 94.3, that's pretty good quarterback play. 149.0, 2021, amazing. 2022, 80.1. He actually regressed quite a bit in last year's playoff, but we're not talking about that. We're probably going to give him the excuse that DeMar Hamlin got hurt, right? We're going to give him the storyline built-in excuse that we somehow managed to find for all these quarterbacks except for Dak Prescott. I see it going on right now with Patrick Mahomes. Oh, he's lacking wide receivers. That's why he doesn't look good. That benefit of the doubt wasn't given to Dak, but he didn't have wide receivers, was it? And then finally, we get to Dak Prescott. And if you actually take a look here, Dak Prescott has been a lot better in the playoffs than people actually believe. You can see it here. The numbers support this. Dak Prescott in 2016, his rookie year, 103.2 quarterback rating in the playoffs. That was against Aaron Rodgers, by the way. Dak Prescott in 2018, 91.3 quarterback rating for Dallas. That was the year that they actually beat Seattle in that first round. 2021, that was his worst playoff game, and this is the game that's actually bringing down his career average probably to less than what Josh Allen's is sitting around, because it's at 69.3. We all know that was a bad game he had against San Francisco. 2021 was honestly the one lone playoff season, and the one lone season that I would probably say Dak Prescott, he boo-booed the bed a little bit in the playoffs. That would be the one season for sure that I would say that on. Oh, but then resiliency, toughness, being able to respond. He comes back the next year and posts 101.5 quarterback rating, even with that game against the 49ers in there. So that lets you know just how high of a level Dak Prescott was actually playing in the playoffs last season, and that gives him a career rating. Remember, even with that 69.3 game in there against the 49ers in 2021, which we all can recognize as a really bad game, 92.3 quarterback rating. Even with that 69.3 game in there, brought to you by the San Francisco 49ers and that demolition crew of a defense. 92.3 quarterback rating. But we're going to continue to pretend like Dak Prescott is some subpar playoff performer, right? When the numbers actually show you differently. No, the touchdown numbers and the yardage isn't going to be there. But even that, if you look at it, 2016, he had 300 yards in that game. 2018, he averaged 246 yards per game during that run. 2021, 254 yards in that game. 2022, average 255 yards. So Dak Prescott is actually putting up numbers that you can win with in the playoffs. That is my point, and that further goes to show the playoffs are all about the team coming together at the right time and getting on a streak. And that involves more than one player playing at a high level, okay? So by no means am I sitting here either blaming all these playoff losses on the quarterbacks that we just looked at, or am I blaming their lack of success in the playoffs on the quarterbacks specifically. But what I am showing you is that when you look at all these quarterbacks and you take your biases out of it, you actually look at the production that they put on the field, Dak Prescott is still amongst the top in the league. He's up there with some of the best players in the league as far as his performances, not only in the regular season, but even in the playoffs. If you take that one season out with the 49ers, his numbers are better than that of the other guys, or it's on par with, and they're still on par with even with that one game in there. So this just goes to show that Joy Taylor is not only making herself look extremely foolish when she tries to talk about football and when she tries to make these unsupported points about Dak Prescott and who he is as a quarterback and who he is compared to other quarterbacks in the league. Not only is she making herself look bad, but she's also honestly not doing women in the sports debate world or women in the sports analytic world any favors, because there's already a lot of people out there that, let's be real, y'all, they don't want to hear from women when it comes from talking about sports and specifically football. And I'm just keeping it real. That's not how I feel. I have a daughter, I love the inclusivity of it all. I love the inclusivity of it. That's not how I feel. But keeping it a buck, a lot of people don't want to hear women talking about football. And that's just facts. And then you have women like Joy Taylor out here giving more fuel to that fire as to why people don't want to hear women talk football, because they feel like there's no way they can know what the heck they're talking about because they could possibly never play football. That's the meat of the matter. And honestly, if we're really looking deep into it and we're talking about being an example and setting the future up and creating paths and being an industry pioneer and breaking open all these doors, Joy Taylor, you're closing more doors than you're opening right now because you're going out of your way to be overly emotional, you're being wrong, and all of your debates and topics are based off of your own personal feelings and opinions. They're not based on anything that's actually happening in the game, and you're adding nothing by way of football knowledge. You're not breaking down schemes, you're not breaking down concepts, you're not breaking down why certain players are playing better, you're not taking into account the full context of the situations of these teams. You sit there and pick the teams that you like as you swing from the rusty, crusty nutsack of LaShawn McCoy on that set, as y'all continue to try to sit here and hate on the Cowboys for absolutely no reason when, oh, by the way, the Cowboys have played a lot of the same teams the Eagles have played this year already. Since y'all want to keep talking about how the Cowboys haven't beaten anybody, well, guess what? If we haven't beaten anybody, neither have the Eagles. And in fact, the Cowboys have handled the same competition that the Eagles have played in a much more dominating fashion than the Eagles could ever dream to do. So all these arguments and debates that are being made, it just looks like y'all are grasping at straws. It looks like you're all trying to make something work. And I can tell that the pressure is starting to get to you, Miss Taylor. I can tell that you guys are starting to hear and feel some of the things that some of us are starting to say. Y'all are starting to hear and feel the criticism because now some of you guys are starting to preference your takes with, oh, I don't want to make the Cowboys fans mad, or I know this is going to make the Cowboys fans. Y'all, because y'all hear us. Y'all see it. Y'all see these videos. Y'all see the tweets. Y'all see what people are saying. Y'all see that y'all have lost 100% of your credibility. Y'all see that no one takes your show seriously. Y'all see it. Y'all see it, and y'all know exactly why. And this is why that tone is changing up just a little bit. And y'all are trying so hard to try to be impartial and fair. But the hate just keeps bubbling over out of you and Shady McCoy to the point to where it infects your brains and it just boils your brains out. And you start just blurting out stuff that has no actual basis or foundation upon it. And you look like a complete jackwagon, you little thought pocket you. But nonetheless, I digress. Joy Taylor, I will say one thing. You've been good for business because holy crap, you make it way too easy to rip you apart and tear your takes apart and expose you for the fraudulent football analyst, talking head, pundit, commentator, whatever you want to call it. You're just an overly emotional woman up there on that set with an axe to grind. At the end of the day, that's what's actually happening. Either way, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all know how we always end these videos. How about them Cowboys? Take it away, Pastor.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Woo, oh, shut up, my boy, shut up. Hey!